All right. We are talking about WordPress hosting today. Let's see. I'm trying to get situated here in my chair. This is Tony Zioli, WordPress coach, trainer, and consultant. You can find me on tonyzioli.com, or you can visit the Facebook page here at WordPress or WP Small Biz. And then we have the group as well, facebook.com/group/WP Small Biz. So would love you to transition from liking our page to joining the group. And each week I'll be coming on live to chat with you about some WordPress topic and get some initial feedback from my audience about what they're looking to do, how they're looking to learn about their work with WordPress, just maybe from the beginner perspective, or you're intermediate, or you're even an expert and you want to share some thoughts and ideas. You can do that right here on our live Facebook feed each week at 11 a.m. on Tuesdays. That's the day that I'm blocking out for these webcasts, so hopefully I'll be able to keep that commitment. But today we're going to talk about hosting, and that's really the start of where we work with WordPress. And a lot of people are, really just blind to what hosting choice they should make when they want to have a WordPress website. So let's go through your options. First, WordPress is split into two different kind of camps, and this becomes confusing for some people. WordPress Foundation runs WordPress.org. The WordPress.org builds the free version of WordPress, the content management system that you would get, and you may, if you are so inclined, download to your desktop. Maybe you install it locally, maybe you, locally meaning on your machine, maybe you install it on a web host that you have rented server space on, or maybe you have one-click installed that free version at your host provider, and you get WordPress for free through the host provider, but you're paying for that hosting. That's one way to get WordPress. The second way to get WordPress is to go to WordPress.com. So WordPress.org being the free foundation giving away WordPress as an open source content management system that either you install or a host gives you one-click install access to. You can get, or you can go to WordPress.com, which is run by Automatic. Automatic, with two T's at the end, Auto, M-A-T-T-I-C, is a pro services arm of WordPress. The organization split into two camps, right? You've got the nonprofit on one side giving away the software for free, and you've got the for-profit Automatic with a bunch of different services like WordPress.com, like Jetpack, like Akismet for spam filtering, and some other services as well. You can visit their website, Automatic, two T's at the end, TTIC.com, to see all those services. But WordPress.com conceptually is similar to a Wix or a Squarespace or a Weebly. It's a website building space for you to just log in, and maybe you get the free version, or maybe you go to a paid version. There are a few upgrade plans where you can say, I want just WordPress for free, and I can host my WordPress there, and I can do all my work on WordPress at WordPress.com, or you can upgrade to different package levels at the WordPress.com site. And the difference is that the free version hosts ads on your website, where when you go into the paid versions, you can remove the ads, and at the highest paid version, you can install your own themes and plugins. So those are the two places in the WordPress ecosystem that you can get hosting. I think what happens in the first step with WordPress hosting is that most people just go to what they know. They hear or they see some marketing, whether it's through a commercial, like a Super Bowl commercial for GoDaddy, or some commercial for InMotion hosting that you see on the web, or some web advertising, or somebody refers you to Bluehost or DreamHost, or you even go into WordPress.org and you look for hosts and they recommend a few different hosts, right? When you get WordPress either you download it and install it yourself on a web server, or you get a one-click install through your inexpensive host provider. What you're really getting is the plain vanilla version of WordPress just installed at that host, but there are no additional add-ons that you can benefit from at that host, right? And you don't know this because you're a small business owner, you're just trying to set up a website, you have no real experience with web development and no real tried and true experience or one-on-one experience with hosting. You just hear that GoDaddy's great. Somebody just tells you that Bluehost is amazing. Somebody just tells you that you should do DreamHost, or that you should do InMotion, or that you should do any other basic, general, inexpensive WordPress host. And they say, oh, it's cheap. It's $10 or $12 a month, and you can get that hosting for cheap, and that will save you money. But that would be, for a small business, potentially a mistake. And the reason for that is hosting is critically important to your WordPress website. It's so important, in fact, you wouldn't have a WordPress website if you didn't have hosting. So you must get a little more educated, a little better educated on what a host provides. Now, at that low level, $10, $12 a month, shared Linux service, that $12 a month plan is really just your basic option. It offers no real security benefits. It offers no backups for your website. It offers no page speed optimization improvements. It offers a very limited set of options. Host my site, put my site online, and that's what you get. But you're a small business. And so one of the most important factors to hosting is, first, having access to your host, having the username and password at your host so you can access the control panel and manage your WordPress install. And the second thing is that you want to have the ability to modify your site and do some page speed improvements and do some optimizations that, even if you did them on a $12 a month host, it probably wouldn't effectively make any difference to your site. Maybe a little bit of boost, but not necessarily much. And there's a few reasons for that. Most of the hosting companies that offer this basic shared hosting, first, they put a bunch of folders in a folder on a computer, and then they attach a web server to it. Your site sits in a folder as opposed to, well, alongside and parallel to 20, 30, 50, 100 other sites in that same folder on a computer. And the web server is actually piece of software that fields a request and drives the requesting user to the folder to access your WordPress site. And then the web server returns those pages, builds that site, returns them in the browser, right? And so the speed in which that happens on a shared host can be impacted by the number of other clients that that hosting provider has in that folder. They could have 100 other websites there, and they could have multiple requests to those websites, and those websites could be doing e-commerce transactions, they could be doing streaming media, they could be doing a whole host of things, running processes that can slow kind of the whole thing down. Because think about when your computer gets slow. A lot of things are open, a lot of tabs are open on your browser, a lot of applications are open. Hey, all of a sudden things slow down a bit, right? Same thing can happen with a computer at a web hosting center where the web host server software kind of is trying to make all these requests at once, right? And most of these hosting companies, they use an older open source technology called Apache web server. And that is the software, Apache, that fills those requests and then delivers the website to your audience, to your requester. And so they're using basically putting you in a room with a bunch of other people using an older Apache web server technology to deliver your files to your requesting user, and they're not really optimizing that space for speed. And you could feasibly hire a developer, or if you were so inclined, come on board yourself, log into your WordPress backend and add some tools like a caching plugin, or you could connect that caching plugin not only to do your caching, but your content delivery network. And those things are, I'll explain a little bit later. But you could improve your speed a little bit. But chances are that if you're on a $10 or $12 a month inexpensive host and you do add those plugins, or some developer adds them for you and tries to modify your WordPress to make it a little bit faster, you're still going to maybe have an impacted site speed by having too many requests to the server on this web host. So hosting is critically important because it factors into how fast your websites load. And that factors into Google's SEO algorithm. So I don't know if you really even knew that, right? If you knew, as a small business owner who is really, and especially for restaurants and other service businesses in local communities, are really dependent on SEO above digital marketing, paid ads and these kinds of things to drive traffic, and SEO is really valuable to you. You want your site to load screaming fast. And there are ways to do that, but starting with cheap hosting, even though it's cheap, probably isn't the best way to go about it. Because once you get your WordPress website at that cheap host, then you have to go and find someone like me who owns an agency, or you have to find a freelancer on Upwork or some job site, WordPress jobs or wherever, and you have to say, hey, I need you. Not only do I have a website now at this hosting company, but I need you to improve my page speed, because I heard that page speed improvements can affect my SEO rankings, which they absolutely can. And that's proven through some of the work that I've done with some of my clients in the local market, especially for restaurants. So as a small business owner, you're thinking, oh, well, I'm going to save, all this money per month because I'm going to install WordPress at $12 a month. But then all of a sudden, you are faced with doing page speed optimization improvements through a caching plugin, through a connecting to maybe an Amazon S3 for storage and a Amazon CloudFront for your CDN, and then you have to pay somebody to do all these things. All of a sudden, your $12 a month hosting is then impacted by your new spend to hire someone to help you install a backup plugin, connect that to Amazon, connect the CDN or the caching plugin that you'll need, Total Cache or Super Cache, to Amazon, and then you'll have to sign up for Amazon beyond that. Now, Amazon is pretty inexpensive for a small business to use, but all of a sudden now you have two costs. You have your hosting cost, and you have your Amazon storage and cloud delivery cost on their Amazon cloud for content delivery network, right? So you've got those. Now all of a sudden you're starting to increase your costs, because you've got your hosting cost, and you've got your Amazon cost, then you've got your developer cost. What if you could just mitigate all of that by simply, excuse me, by simply looking for a host that does all of these things, right? Because what happens is you start spending that money and you don't realize that you think, oh, am I still have $12 a month hosting. Now I'm spending money with developers, and I'm taking time away from my business to learn some new things about how to improve my page speed. But that spend is really increasing your hosting cost. You can't look at your hosting cost as $12 a month anymore if you are hiring out to fix those issues that host doesn't do. You really have to combine those two costs. And that's where WordPress managed hosting comes in. So maybe 3 to 5 years ago, there were a number of companies came online. Maybe it was a little longer. One of them is WP Engine. wpengine.com. And they really kind of invented the WordPress manage host environment. And what that is saying, we're going to provide WordPress for you on sign up so you don't have to install it. Or if you need to migrate WordPress from somewhere else, we'll help you migrate it and we'll set it up for you so you don't have to go through the pain of doing that. We'll give you 24-hour chat support or phone support, and we will give you some of the key tools that you would have had to pay a developer to install for you, or you would have had to take in the time yourself to install and configure and set up. And that presents a cost to the small business. We'll give all of that to you in one package price today at $49 a month. It used to be $29. They just did a repricing strategy and they kind of combined some things that they didn't have in the $29 a month plan with the $45 a month plan. And they put that into the $45 a month plan. And let me show you how that works. So for $45 a month, not only do you get hosting, you also get your a development environment, a staging environment, and a live environment. That means you can install your website in development, staging, and live. And in development, you can develop it, do things to it that nobody else can see because it's in a development environment. You're not showing that to the world. You can move that then to staging, and you can say, okay, I'm ready to go. Let me go to staging. Let me host it in staging. Let me look at everything, make sure everything's working perfectly. Now, once you have staging and you've tested all your theories, you can then move that just by one-click process to live. And if you have an issue, you can always roll back because you had 30 days of backups in your live environment anyway. So in WordPress managed hosting, even though it's $45 as opposed to $10 or $12, you're getting 30 days of site backups in all your environments, dev, staging, and live. So you can always roll back if something goes wrong. You're getting object caching, and I'll explain what object caching is. It's taking a snapshot of all of your WordPress pages that really don't change much. Maybe it's a blog post that's been around for a couple of months. Maybe it's an about page. Maybe it's a contact page. Why do we have to ask WordPress to present that page to the requesting visitor when we can just deliver a light HTML snapshot from an object cache to that requester, right? So when you have a cheap shared host, you don't have object caching unless you install the caching plugin, work with a developer, spend that money to do those things where you can just get that automatically and not have to hire anyone through WordPress managed hosting. So let me just reiterate on this point that I'm trying to make here, or iterate, I should say. I'm not reiterating because I didn't make the point yet. But when we think that we're saving money by using $12 a month cheap hosting, the reality is we're going to spend more in time and money either on our own trying to learn something, or with another developer trying to fix some of these issues or implement some of these things that will help your site be faster, when the reality is you can just go right to manage hosting. You don't need to do all these things. You don't need to call anyone. You don't need to hire a developer for page speed optimization at this level. There are some things that I'll talk about in future WP Small Biz Facebook Lives about optimization, about speed optimization. But in its essence, the reality is one of the first things that you should be thinking about is 30 days of site backups with one-click restore. You should be thinking about that you have object caching, and you should be thinking about that the host gives you a content delivery network. Now, what a content delivery network is it's a distributed set of web servers around the world. And what happens is if you're hosting your website in one place, it'll host your images somewhere close to the requesting user, and it will take a copy of all your images in your uploads folder, and it will distribute them around the world on servers around the world. So if somebody's requesting your site, they'll get the images from the closest local server, but they'll get your website text files from your general web server, right? That way images load faster, especially for mobile devices. If someone's if someone is out there requesting your site on a mobile device, you want an image in your site to load fast. So by loading it from the closest possible server to the user, that's going to load those images fast and the site fast. And there are other optimization techniques we'll talk about in another WP Small Biz Facebook Live. But in essence, what I'm saying is that you're going to literally spend the same or more amount of money on the cheap web host than you would if you just set the $45 a month plan at a managed hosting provider like WP Engine. Now, WP Engine does give a discount if you sign up yearly for the year. So maybe it's not $45 a month. Maybe it's $43 a month, right? But in that, you're going to get your 30 days of site backups with one-click restore. You're going to get your object caching. You don't have to call anybody to ask them to set it up for you. It's already set up. You know, you just have to go into your control panel, click a checkbox, say, click, I need object caching. Done. And you immediately have the ability to have a content delivery network as well through your managed hosting provider. Now that could be page.ly, Pagely. That could be another WordPress managed host like Flywheel or WP Engine. All of those companies offer these kinds of services. But yes, they are more expensive on the outset when you're looking at the price match. You say $12 for shared hosting, $45 for managed hosting. But in the $12, are you really going to get a great customer service experience? No, actually, WP Engine just won an award this year for having the best hosting customer service. And I just saw them being rated on one of the websites that looks at all managed hosts, and they were rated even though they weren't rated number one in speed, they were rated number one in customer support. And when you're a small business and you have a question, you really don't want to go to a $12 a month host and ask a complex WordPress question, because most times those customer support reps at those companies aren't advanced or as knowledgeable about WordPress as they are at the WordPress managed hosting companies. Those hosting companies are more expensive, so they have a better quality of customer support rep who has been trained on all the multitude of things that can happen with WordPress, and they can better answer your questions, quickly answer your questions, and quickly solve problems. That's another thing that you're getting in the $45 a month that you don't get in the $12. I have heard from time and time again from many of my clients, I contact Bluehost or I contact GoDaddy and they steer me in the wrong direction, or they don't know what I'm talking about, or they're not really sure, or they don't really understand, the culture because they are maybe an offshore customer service rep or something like that. With WordPress Managed Hosts, you can be virtually guaranteed that you're going to get someone who comes from your culture and understands what it is that you're trying to convey to them and can give you an answer to your question. And if they can't, they're going to escalate that. And within 24 hours, they're going to have somebody on their escalation team solve that issue. So that is the key difference between this $12 a month cheap hosting and this $45 a month managed hosting. Now, if you are a WordPress driven small business, and your website has e-commerce, or you need lead generation, or SEO is really critical to you, what is $45 a month to you when you can get all of these services in managed hosting that you can't get in shared hosting, that you have to actually hire somebody and then have them manage it? It's going to cost you infinitely more than being able to go to managed hosting. So what I'm saying here today is, small business owners, don't be afraid of the $45 a month, because what you're getting for $45 a month far exceeds what you're going to get for $12 a month cheap hosting. It's really a no-brainer at this point, because you're not, why aren't you thinking about a backup plan, for emergencies if something happens to your site? And why aren't you thinking about having development, a staging, and a live environment, so you can do things in development that you can't get on a shared host? I have a ton of questions all the time. Well, how am I going to work on my site if my site is live? Well, in managed hosting, you have 3 sites: development, staging, and live. You can work on your development, move it to staging and test, and then move it to live. They've done this in the enterprise big corporations for many years, but now we can do it with small business at a WordPress managed host. So this is the key difference. Now, one of the things that I do as a WordPress coach, consultant, and trainer is I work with small business owners through my 6 to 8 week program, educating small businesses on the step-by-step process to get their WordPress website situated on a WordPress managed host, educate them about what that managed host does, and then work with them to maybe identify a theme, developers, designers to actually implement their site, and then give them some of the tools for, and educate them on SEO, on content marketing, on email newsletter marketing, and all these kinds of things. So that's what we do at tonyzioli.com/coaching. So if you are interested and you're a small business owner and you're, not really sure on how to strategize, how to get your WordPress site up and running, tonyzioli.com/coaching. You can go there. You can contact me, set up a free 30-minute appointment, and we can talk through some of your issues, and then we can potentially work together over the course of 4 to 6 weeks to help you get your small business online. Now, if your small business is already online and you're struggling with some WordPress issues, we will talk through that with you as well. So please visit tonyzioli.com/coaching, set up a free 30-minute call with me over the next couple of weeks. I'll be happy to take that call. We'll chat through some of your issues, and we'll chat through your hosting challenges, and I will show you, in that call, and if we schedule some time together throughout a 6 or 8 week program to coach you through these things, why your WordPress managed hosting is going to be more efficient for you than your current $12 a month hosting. Now, one of the other things I wanted to talk about is security. At WP Engine, and I'm not sure if some of the other WordPress managed hosts do this, but at WP Engine, if your site gets hacked, now I've been on WP Engine for about 5 or 6 years, and I have never had a hack happen. One, I've always kept my WordPress sites up to date. Whenever WordPress rolls out a new version or themes and plugins update, I'm always on top of that. That's one thing that we always have to do and know how to do. Having a development, staging, and live environment helps us do that, because then we can update our themes, plugins, and WordPress in a development environment, know that it's working, move it to staging, move it to live, and we're still good, right? With a $12 a month shared host, you only have one site, your live site. You have to update on the fly. And what happens if your site breaks and you don't have a backup or backup plugin installed that you had to pay for, or whatever have you, and or you have a backup plugin and you didn't configure it correctly and you backed up on your own web server, which some people do, which they should back up on a server somewhere else, right? You should never, if you have a safe, you want a safe deposit box at the bank. It's not in your house, right? So you want to back up somewhere else. So if something goes wrong, a hacker ends up hacking in, they destroy your site, or they impact your site in some way, they impact your server, you can't restore, because you don't have 30 days of backups, you don't have a development or a staging environment where you have an extra copy already that you were working with just to roll in and then fix that hack or whatever have you. I know that WP Engine in their managed hosting works with Sucuri, S-U-C-U-R-I. They're a major WordPress security firm, and they do a network level security on the back end at WP Engine. Now, they also have a plugin for WordPress, a Sucuri plugin that you would install that would do a couple of other things. Not going to get into that now. We can get into security at another Facebook Live session, but just know that if you have $12 a month shared hosting and then you install your Sucuri plugin, or maybe it's WordFence or some other iTheme security, yes, you have your base level of security, but you don't have a network level of security at the $12 a month plan. On managed hosting, you have that network level of security, and if your site got hacked, WP Engine would fix that site, clean it for free, because you're paying $45 a month. I know for a fact that if your site got hacked on a $12 a month shared hosting account that GoDaddy would charge you $200 to clean that hack. So, when you think your hosting is $12 a month, it turns out to be $12 a month plus, $12 a month plus that, $12 a month plus that, $12 a month plus if I got hacked, then I have to pay something additional. So you really want to think about those costs that you're incurring at the $12 a month level, right? For a small business. All of a sudden, as a small business owner, you are bogged down with issues that you have to solve and you have to pay for, when you could have just mitigated all of that by going specifically to WordPress managed hosts like WP Engine, like Flywheel, like Page.ly. I know that that there are other WordPress managed hosts out there. Those are the ones that I'm, really kind of in tune to, and whatnot. So, so really think about this critically as a small business owner. What is that $45 a month cost buying you? It's buying you far more security than you would have at $12 a month, right? And so I urge you to think about that as a small business owner, is to first, if you have some questions, if you want to talk through it, if you need some coaching on hosting and maintenance for WordPress, we can talk about that. Just go to tonyzero.com/coaching and sign up for a free 30-minute appointment, and we'll get started with you. And so that's really where we're headed with this. But that's the end of my Facebook Live webcast today. Thank you very much for tuning in. We will talk to you in the next one next Tuesday at 11 a.m.